We wanted to come and share some information with you guys. This is a video that's been requested many times, that we really wanted to get around to sharing some information on. As the description says, it is a recap of our family's experience living in Panama. We are a Black American family that moved from the United States in Atlanta, Georgia, and we moved to Panama back in June of 2016. So we moved as a family of four, and we're going to give you guys our pros and our cons in reference to what we thought about it. So what our experience was, how we navigated, and to make sure that we try to share that information for anybody that might find it useful.
Excellent. What we want to do is kind of give a few seconds, for people to come in and jump on to the live before we go into detail. My name's Omar, and my wife Aquilia. We are the Blacugees, and again, our objective is very clear. We just want to share the information that we've gained, experience that we've gained, and provide information to families that may be considering options outside of the United States of America. Do want you to know that there are options that are viable, very realistic, and what we're going to do is go over some brief things in reference to our first step out, such as Panama, and kind of go over like our budget, and, what the experience was like, and from there we'll just kind of see where it takes us. So first things first, we are. What do you think we have on the agenda here?
Okay, so first things first, what we want to talk about is budget. A lot of people are oftentimes very interested in wanting to know what was our budget. How expensive is it, or how affordable is it to live in another country? So what we did was we went ahead and did a lot of research before we left. It was probably, yes, lots of research. So it was probably about a process of, I would say 2 to 3 years that we really sort of started thinking about how we were going to make this work, and how we were going to actually put this plan into place. So we actually went through a process of about 2 to 3 years of downsizing. We downsized from a really large house, huge house with
that's one of the major questions. Let's get into that downsizing a little bit. It was a process. We were living outside of Alpharetta in the Atlanta area of Georgia, at 10,000 square foot house. And when we first started the process of deciding, that we wanted to check out some other options, became a process of downsizing. So we left the 10,000 square foot house over in Forsyth County and went to a 5,000 square foot in Cobb. And it was still plenty enough space there. That was, we actually sold a lot of things. We kind of unloaded a lot of stuff there in that move. So it was definitely a process, because we were totally in. We were like 100% all into the American system. And when we made the decision, we had to do it in stages. We had to do it in stages,
and what I wanted to say is one of the things that, hey, thanks for tuning in. One of the things that I wanted to mention that we did, which I didn't really see the benefit of it at the time, but Omar used to constantly mention that if we're really going to be considering moving to another country, especially over in Europe, a lot of the houses and living spaces are much smaller than they are here in the States. And that's just in a lot of other countries. They don't have these huge, well, I'm not saying that they don't have big houses, but it's not as plentiful, for the average person. So with that being said, he's like, listen, we need to learn how to live in smaller spaces. So what we did was we went ahead and downsized for a year to a 2-bedroom apartment, so that we could.
That was after
that was the second phase. So after that, this is like I said, within a year time frame of when we decided we were really going to leave and relocate and move out of the country, we decided to downsize. So with that being said, we were able to sort of certain things we kept, certain things we sold, most things we sold, certain things we put into storage, and really important things and valuable things we made sure that they were stored and weren't traveling with us. So with that being said, I want to go into that was our process in terms of how we were sort of able to put some logistics together to figure out how we we're going to navigate that experience, right?
Right.
So with that being said, when we left from Atlanta and we flew to Panama, Panama, I think it was like a less than 3 hour flight or something like that, in terms of us being able to fly from Atlanta to get over to Panama City. Now, I do want to touch on budget because a lot of people are very interested and want to know the cost, like I mentioned before. So I took a couple of notes and wrote it down here just to give you an idea.
Yeah.
So with that being said, the apartment that we moved to in Panama, we moved to Coronado, Panama, which is probably about an hour or so outside of Panama City. And Panama City obviously is the large city, the capital city in Panama. And the reason we decided to move to the countryside in Coronado as opposed to the city, Panama City, is because there was a larger expat community in Coronado. So if Panama is on your register, and on your radar, should I say, then Coronado area of Panama is definitely going to be.
That's your expat hub.
That's your expat hub. That's where that is where a lot of English speaking people live. They've already sort of built a network there to make it easy for you. So you're not just there, especially if you don't speak the language. It was very helpful to us to have people that were already there. So the process was that I reached out to a lady online, and I emailed a lady online that I found on Facebook and told her that we were interested in moving to Coronado and to refer me to a real estate agent. So she referred me to a real estate agent who I had a chance to speak with. That realtor had a lot of apartments that she was currently leasing in Coronado, and she sent me, a whole bunch of emails. We exchanged emails back and forth, and she was very helpful. So that's the first tip, is to make connections. Reach out to people in the cities or countries that you're interested in possibly considering relocating to, and just start up conversations. Facebook was a great resource of being able to get into expat groups specifically for that city, and I was able to find a lot of options in terms of housing there. So with the apartment that we moved to a 2-bedroom, 2-bath condo. That condo was in a high rise, and I think it had like 15 floors, and I believe we were on floor 13. So
17 floors you were on.
17 floors, and we were on 15. That's what it was. So we had a oceanside view, oceanfront view. Beautiful. It was actually Coronado Golf, so it was in a golf club community, and we were right by the mountains, right by the ocean. It was like an excellent, perfect view. So with that being said, with that apartment, we were only paying $1,300, and so that $1,300 included all of our utilities. So that was electric, water, internet, everything was included.
Now, the beautiful thing is that, I want to slow it down a little bit here. Mm-hmm. The place that we stayed was on Airbnb, right?
Right.
And which was really convenient, right? Because all of our payments went through Airbnb.
Right.
Everything was included. There was no surprises. Mm-hmm. You can pay from your PayPal if you need to, and so that was really a tool that kind of showed you what options are available to you for what price range is comfortable for you. Mm-hmm. And I think that, even though Airbnb is going to be more expensive than what it is locally, you'll be able to get a pretty good gauge as to what is available and what you're looking for, and what the cost associated with that would be.
Right.
And so, that was a really good tool. And we set our budget. We said, hey, $1,500 a month. You can do that. That's not bad. This is what we're looking for that $1,500 a month, and coalition with reaching out to the real estate agents, we were able to identify, really good deals,
Right.
with being able to compare those two.
Right.
And so I think that, you know, we really kind of, I mean, this whole process was like inundation, right? So, we were looking at Airbnbs and we were looking at videos,
We're looking at getting a
you
house
know,
there,
all of these things, but we connected the laptop to the TV, right? So we're like really getting a good vision of this. We're not just, glancing through on our phone. We're like really putting ourselves in there like every single day, like, kind of, hey, there's a new video that came out, or, just really kind of getting ourselves used to the idea, because it really was, it's foreign, right? I mean, everybody that we told, I mean, a lot of my friends were like, you're crazy. Like, what are you talking about? And believe me, and no one believed me, but, that process with Airbnb definitely, was helpful along with the real estate agents, because then you were able to identify what real proper cost should be.
Right. Yeah, and it's definitely important to price compare. When you have you're making a big decision like that, you want to make sure that you choose a place that's going to be safe. You want to choose a place that's going to make you comfortable. Sometimes I've noticed that other expats may, travel somewhere and they are staying in a place that's not necessarily what makes them comfortable, because you do have to understand that you have American creature comforts. You have first world creature comforts, and if you happen to be traveling to a country that doesn't have the same types of standard living that we do, it can be an adjustment. It definitely can be taxing. So it's something to make sure that you take into consideration. So with that being said, we did have, like I said, our apartment was $1,300. It included all utilities and everything. The other expense that we had was transportation.
Right.
So obviously we flew over there. When we flew to Panama, we flew with 14 suitcases and backpacks. So we had like a backpack apiece. So we had 4 backpacks and we had 10 suitcases.
4 backpacks,
And,
3 duffel bags.
Right.
It was
So
crazy.
we definitely took way more than what we even needed to pay.
Yeah.
We certainly did need to pay for all of those extra bags, because there was a lot of things that we took to Panama.
Yeah, that was terrible. That was a terrible idea.
We didn't even use that stuff. Certain things we never
Like
even
the bags were like a ticket, like a whole extra
we
ticket.
paid major money in bags because we just
we didn't know.
we overthought it. Definitely. So transportation was the other expense in that particular area of Coronado, Panama. There are taxis that you can use to get around. However, in the community that we were living in, we wanted to have our own vehicle because our children was enrolled into school, and so there was no buses or anything like that, which their school was like less than maybe 5-7 minutes from our apartment.
Yeah.
But we wanted to just have a vehicle of our own to be able to go out, just explore, check out the area and things like that. So we ended up reaching out again on Facebook and just asked around in the expat group that we joined, does anyone have any recommendations for transportation and renting a vehicle, and what are those options? So essentially, they had car rental places, like your regular budget, things like that, which is obviously very expensive. But what we did find is that there were a lot of expats that own vehicles that were leasing them, and they were basically leasing them to people that were going to be there for a short amount of time, or people that were travelers and things like that. So that's what we used.
Now, quick pause. Let me kind of drill into that a little bit further. We actually did a scout trip to Panama. It's like it's actually the only place that we did a scout trip, isn't it? Yeah. So we went, my wife and I first, to check it out. And in so doing, that's where we were connected with the real estate agents, the car rental places, kind of got a pretty good sense of lay of the land. That's where we found the international school for the kids. So the scout trip for Panama is, that's kind of what made everything like a seamless process once we did decide to move. Now, the other places that we went to, that wasn't the case, right? So, because we felt like we were pros, right? But that scout trip definitely allowed us to make, relationships
Mm-hmm.
with people, in the expat community and they, they're very helpful, very, very helpful, it's not always, like a lot of times you find some groups, people always try to charge you fees. They weren't like that at all. They just, there was no fees involved. Hey, you need this, go here, call this guy. And so it was, it was a really, really good community, which gave us, kind of an advantage, I would say, for when we brought the boys over, because we pretty much already knew like the community, a lot of restaurant owners, things like that, taxi drivers, a couple different business owners. All of that we found in that scout trip, and so I do want to preface the conversation and kind of let you guys know that that was definitely an integral part of the move to Panama.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I forgot to mention that. So the scout trip that we took, we actually went in March of 2016 and flew out to Panama, as my husband said, just ourselves. And then we actually made the official move in June. So once we came back from Panama, I had a chance to sort of have boots on the ground and really see for ourselves that this is something that we wanted to do. Within 90 days, we were able to put it in place and our entire family moved. So as I mentioned, with the vehicle that we were leasing, which it wasn't any type of lease term, I think we had like a small like little contractor working agreement or something with the guy, something like that.
Yes.
It was only $500. It was $500 a month, and so that included the insurance. And so we were renting a SUV for $500 a month. The next expense that we had was tuition. We sent our kids to an international private school because that particular school was the highest recommended school in that particular area, and they had a lot of children who were from other countries, and their parents were either working there through the government or they were on some type of contract and things like that. So we thought it would be a really good experience for the kids to be in a school with other English-speaking children. So when we moved, our oldest son was going into the 10th grade, and our youngest son was going into the 6th grade. So when we enrolled them in school, their tuition was $400 a month for each child. So we were paying a total of $800 a month for tuition for the boys. And that included all of their books and, I think the only other expense that we had was uniforms, which wasn't that expensive. I think between the two of them, it was like maybe $100 or something like that. So that was the next expense. Again, $800 for tuition. We paid probably about $400 a month for groceries. And that was on the high side. Like at that time, that was our first country that we moved to from the States. So we really were not used to eating like locals or shopping like locals. We were still buying all the regular Americanized foods and stuff like that, all the brands and things, because I was pretty much shopping brands that I was familiar with. So, and plus we didn't really speak English or speak Spanish at the time. So there was a lot of stuff in the grocery store I didn't even know how to read it. So I'm like, okay, I'm just stick with what I know. So we were paying about $400 a month. That's certainly on the high side for Panama. You certainly can spend a lot less living in Panama because the food is relatively inexpensive. So that was about $400, even though, that's really inexpensive compared to the States, especially for a family of four. So at the time, I didn't think that was too bad. The next expense we had was our cell phones.
Yeah, they cost what they cost. They were U.S. phones.
We still had our U.S. plan. I think we were paying around $200 a month at the time. And, we just kept our plan. It still worked perfectly while we were over there. And of course, we always encourage people to get WhatsApp.
Download WhatsApp.
When you're outside of the
and
country.
Use your Wi-Fi. Connect to Wi-Fi.
Yeah, that's going to make your life so much easier to be able to make your local calls and connect to people, everyone outside of the U.S.
Save off of those charges.
WhatsApp. So that's what we use. In total, as far as the budget portion of this video, our total cost for a family of four living in Panama at the time was $3,200 a month.
Right.
Now, keep in mind that when I say that we lived in a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, ocean view condo, it was totally modern, like top of the line amenities, beautiful condo. So, for $3,200. In comparison, if you were living in Atlanta in the same type of condo, let's say it would be equivalent to a condo or a apartment in Midtown, or Atlantic Station. It was of the same caliber. And so you would pay anywhere from like $2,500 and up living, obviously, in Atlantic Station, $2,500 to $3,000 for a 2-bedroom. So with that being said, that is a comparison for you. If you're comparing this video and you live in the Northeast and you live in like upstate New York or Western New York, if you compare this type of condo to, let's say, somewhere in like Williamsville, Amherst, Ellicott Park, or what is it? Ellicott Creek? What is it? Ellicottville. It's been a while. In Ellicottville, you would definitely be paying like, maybe $2,500 or something like that, Orchard Park, something like that. So nevertheless, with that being said, it was a very nice place. For $3,200, it really, we thought it was a great deal. So that's the budget part of the video, because that's really important when you're considering moving. You want to know where your money goes, how far your money can go, and get some bang for your buck. So we wanted to make sure we went over that. So now getting into the pros and cons of Panama. What we're going to do is we're going to start out on the cons. Simply because we want to leave the video on a highlight and we want to leave it on the pros, on a good note. So we figured that we start out with the cons, not to be negative, but just to lay it out there, and then we'll end up on the pros, okay?
Yeah, and I'm going to go a lot slower than what she's going because, well, you'll see. Let's go.
But you'll learn that that's just our personality. Yeah. He's always, so there we go.
A little bit more methodical.
Yeah, yin and yang. So with that being said, here's the first con. One of the cons that you mentioned for Panama was the Caymans.
Oh my God. Listen, like they got ocean gators. Like I'm from Florida. Like they got gators in the ocean. Like that was crazy to me. Like,
yeah.
I'm like, man, like what is this? I'm like, that's a gator right there. It was like, oh no, that's a caiman. I'm like, oh, that's crazy as hell for me.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry. Like we don't play around with gators. So now the thing is, like before, it was like I'm out there on the beach, it's like all beautiful, the black sands, meditation, grounding, all of that. Go for a little swim and everything, and then like I look out the corner of my eye and I saw this thing scurrying on the beach. It was a gator. It was a caiman. They call it caimans, but that blew me away. So I'm like, okay, that's a problem. So ever since that point, like I'm like, I can't swim with ocean gators. I can't do it.
Yeah.
So I was very reluctant, didn't let the boys back in the ocean. So really a lot of the ocean activities that I had wanted to do was immediately canceled when I saw the ocean gator.
Yeah. And so the Panamanians, the locals, they are always at the beach. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
every weekend.
That's their country and that's where they're from. And so, to us, as Americans and U.S. citizens, we were sort of like, yeah, we're just a little reluctant to swim in the oceans where there's not those kinds of barriers and stuff like that to keep some of those dangerous, sea life animals away from the shore. So, when we did go to the ocean and stuff like that, it was particularly if we went to like a resort and they had their own private ocean space. But
they would actually, the resorts would set up these like barriers like out in the ocean to kind of keep, the beach area for the resort safe. Yeah. But just like, if you don't go to one of them,
it's a local beach. There's definitely caimans.
Gonna be ocean gators.
Yeah. and so there was a few times when we were there that a couple people were attacked and stuff like that. Yeah. That you saw, in the news and things like that. So we were that's one of the cons for us, right? Yeah. Especially if you're living right off of the water, you want to take advantage of that.
I'm not dealing with gators in the ocean. Sorry.
Right. The next one definitely for us.
Is that we going through mine? Or you doing yours?
These are sort of a hybrid of both of us. Okay. Yeah. So the next con is going to be the flies. They didn't really bother me too much, but it's very rustic. That's one of the things about Panama. It's still very much being built up, sort of, and like you'll still see like the mosquito trucks and stuff that are spraying,
which is good. Which is good. You know what I mean? We were there around the time when everybody was talking about Zika.
Right.
And I still didn't see any issues with the Zika situation up
Yeah,
there.
it was weird because when we actually decided that we were going to move to
Yeah.
Panama and we were moving our kids out of the country, people were like, "How are you moving to Latin America and there's Zika virus going on?" And I was just like, "Well, when we went on our scout trip, I didn't see any Zika
The Zika
people. I
babies.
didn't
Yeah.
see, and if you remember at the time, Zika was supposed to be like manifested in kids where they had the little heads and stuff like that, and that type of deformity. I never saw any of that. So I was just like, where is all of this Zika that they want all of us to be
Didn't
so
see it
afraid of? I never saw that in any of the Latin countries that I've
at
visited.
all.
So to me, that sounded like it was a bit of a hoax. But
But
um,
the flies, like the
flies, yeah,
flies wasn't like for me wasn't really a big deal, but
there's a lot of flies.
it was a lot. Like, but with my kids, man,
Yeah, our kids were not feeling the flies. Like, they're like, yeah, like,
man,
no, we're
yo,
good.
it was so funny. They was fighting the flies like
Yeah.
in public. It was looking
Yeah,
real crazy.
to this day, our youngest son still got a complex
He's
with
scarred.
flies.
Yeah,
He's
he's scarred.
not big on flies. So that's the second one. Number three. Number three is a little, I guess it could be a little touchy. Certainly don't want to, step on any toes. We have some friends still in Panama. But it was the public bathrooms
Oh
were
my
definitely
God.
interesting.
Listen,
They Everywhere we went, the public bathrooms gave you
bro, they was hit. They was hit.
they
Like,
gave you gas station vibes. You know what I
listen,
mean? Like
listen.
porta potty vibes.
Let me tell you something.
Everywhere, even if it was the mall, if it was a restaurant, if it was a resort, it just was sort of
Them
strange.
bathrooms was rough, bro. I literally, like, I got a thing with bathrooms. Like, I got like germs and stuff. I'm not a big germ fan, right? And these bathrooms was out of control. Like, the kids was like walking in like this,
Yeah.
like it's crazy. So for me, like, it's like, okay, the people, like, no one really cared, right? It wasn't like a big
Yeah,
thing.
to that.
And I'm not knocking no people or no culture. That's not what it is. I'm just saying the bathrooms was hit. Like, they was terrible, out of control. And so, but there were like I said, certain places you can go to resorts where they were, where they were decent, but everything was, like she said, heavily on
Yeah, just
the
gave you gas station vibes.
the trucker, questionable little shady bathroom type situation.
So that was very surprising. And if
Yeah.
you go to Panama, that's something that you probably will be shocked by, but now you won't be as shocked. So
It might not bother some people, but for me, that was a problem.
yeah, that wasn't it for us. The next con is going to be crazy drivers. In Panama, there was countless times that we saw people driving on the same side of the
Like
wrong
right
side of the
at
road.
you.
So they just decide, like, if it's traffic, they're going to cut over into your lane. They're going to go on the other side of the highway, like totally, what we would consider illegal. It's not like that there. Like, they are driving where they want to go, and they're driving as fast as they want to go.
And they're gonna get there.
They're gonna get And so that was something to definitely take note of, and it was an adjustment for us. So basically, even though we had our own vehicle, the city that we were living in and the community we were living in Coronado, was pretty much like interior. So, well, actually, it was called Coronado Interior. So we pretty much had a lot of like the things you need: grocery stores, gas stations, everything right in our community. So we really didn't have to get on the highway. That's where you will find a lot of the crazy driving is on the highway. So if we did go on the highway, we just sort of took our time. People would fly past us and beep, and we just didn't care. We were just trying to be safe. So crazy driving in Panama is something else. It's probably the craziest driving experiences that we've had.
I don't know, man. Nicaragua was crazy too.
I think Panama was definitely. Nika, that's another video. We're gonna do a recap of all the countries that we visited.
Yeah.
But Panama, that was one of the cons.
Yeah, they really, like she said, like they don't, like there was like the lines in the road didn't matter, like they don't matter, and so it's like you just got to be aware. You have to be aware. But I mean the depth. I mean some of these guys they're really good drivers too. Like the depth perception of these people, how to be able to maneuver these big, huge, giant trucks, like squeeze them through little spots. It was amazing. But yeah, it was definitely something to keep an eye on. So if you are going to be driving in Panama, now the thing is, like when we got to the city, when we was in the city, it wasn't like that. Like it wasn't. It was nothing. It was nothing like it was in the country.
The city and the countryside of Panama are are
Totally
apples and
different world.
oranges. You
Yeah,
know what I mean?
totally different world.
Totally different world. And so that just happened to be our experience out in the countryside because in order to get most places, you had to jump on the highway, and that's when you would
Yeah,
encounter those crazy drivers. So if you were to visit Panama or you were to move to Panama, if driving is not your thing and you're really not feeling it, then you, like I said, there's a lot of taxis that are there, and you can certainly use a local driver. And then, as well as in Coronado Interior, a lot of the people actually just drove around on golf carts because it's an
right.
inside gated community. So you can drive around in a golf cart.
When we went to, what's the name of that town? We went to the mountain, one of the mountains,
El Valle.
El Valle, man. Oh my gosh, man, it was beating me on this mountain. It was like, it was so,
It didn't have guardrails and
it
stuff.
was just
So
cliff. It was just cliff.
yeah,
And it was just beating it around me. I'm like, y'all going ahead,
like
bro.
steep
Come on,
mountains,
yo,
just gunning.
burning it. Like, I was like,
We were like, wow.
I'm sorry, I'm not. I'm gonna take it slow. I'm granny over here, whatever. Because like I couldn't do it. It was like it was, but you know that left an impression. But I gotta say, it prepared me for some other places that I ended up driving.
Right, absolutely. So the next con that we have is a water shortage. When we were living in Panama, there was a water shortage, which was very strange because we were right on the ocean. So we're sort of like, how are we out of water? How is the whole city out of water?
Not just drinking water, but like just like water.
Yeah, like so the drinking water, just to turn on your faucet, there was no water. To flush your toilets, there was no water. Now, keep in mind that this was at the end of our trip. So the visa for Panama is 6 months when you arrive. You have a 6 month tourist visa before you have to leave or have it renewed. And I want to say that the water shortage didn't happen until like the last maybe 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks before we were leaving. So it wasn't like cause for concern for us to move necessarily because we were already going to be leaving the country, but it was a major inconvenience. The person that we were, the host that we were renting our apartment from, they were very helpful, very apologetic about it. They were bringing us over like water bottles and like big old liters of water and everything like that. But it really was something they couldn't control. It was citywide, and it had something to do with the pipes and some.
It was rain. It was like the
flooding
rain.
and stuff like that. It was
The
the rainy
rain
season.
broke a valve at the water authority because it was too much.
Right.
And,
it overwhelmed the system. And so it just shut down and they had to fix it. And so apparently from what we heard, that's something that can be rather common there. We only experienced it once in 6 months. So that was sort of an inconvenience because I remember the host was like, if it gets really bad, there's a pool up on the rooftop and, you guys could always.
They was going up there getting the water out of the pool.
To the pool and taking buckets of water out of the pool. I was like, child.
They had like a whole saying.
They
had like a whole saying. It was like, if it's yellow, let it mellow. If it's brown, flush it down.
Yeah, I was like, wow. Like I had never experienced anything like that. So, I guess from some people's perspective, that's certainly not roughing it. But for me, I was like, okay, that's a bit much. So that was a con. The next con is that it was a bit expensive for like leisure things that you wanted to do. So, if you think that you're in this country that has this really beautiful weather and, ocean views and just, water all over, you want to go to the beach, you want to go to the vacation, you want to be on that type of vibe, you want to do all kinds of excursions and kayaking and jet skis and all of that kind of stuff. It's expensive.
It costs the same. It costs the exact same as like Florida or California. Like, it's like there is literally no difference in the cost.
Right.
Sometimes even more.
Yeah, the cost was definitely a lot more than, because we've been traveling to islands and stuff like that for many years. So
it was more than
like
Caribbean.
Bahamas and things like that, Jamaica, Turks and Caicos, things like that. We've done excursions all over, and it was like way more expensive than that. So that was something that was definitely a bit of a shock. So if you are intending to go and experience that, then you definitely have to make sure that you save for it.
Yeah, let me say this too. Like I wanted to go skydiving, right? And so you have to be a skydiver, you got to go 3 times tandem. That's with somebody attached to you, and they get your certification. So I'm like, okay, well, maybe I'll do the skydiving. It's like, they asked the question, do you want to go tandem or you want to go by yourself? And I'm like, well, no, I need to go. I got to go by, tandem. I didn't do the certification. It was like, oh, that doesn't apply here. If you want to go by yourself, you could just go. And
Where
I was
you
like,
live.
what? Like, I was like,
Are
no.
you jumping
So
off
'cause
the
the thing is,
plane?
like, if you do these like extreme sports or anything like that, like the protections that you have back home in the event something happened, you don't have.
Mhm.
So, that's just something I want to kind of, I don't know if you may be into that. I like skydiving, it's great. I'm gonna do it again. Deep sea fishing, all that kind of stuff. So if you do these things, just know that, there are, risks that are associated that you don't have the same protections for that you would, in the United States, because everything in the United States is about suing people. So,
Right. And we just wanted to show some love to Tammy, Kanisha, Akila, and Mitch. Thanks for tuning in,
a
guys, so
big
far.
shout out. Yeah, it looks
Yeah,
like
big shout
Tammy
out
said
to you
she's about
guys.
to move, huh?
Yeah, she said that she's planning on
All right,
relocating.
Tammy.
So anything we can do to help, let us
Yeah,
know.
reach out. Yeah.
Let's go ahead and go to the next con so that we can get to the pros. We're not trying to be negative, but we're just, being honest. So, the next one is going to be that it was a bit boring overall. Just um, the reason I say that, this is a con for me. Okay, it may not be. It wasn't a con necessarily for him. There's a pro that is also in tandem with this con, but I'll get to that in a little bit. But it was a little bit boring. For me, in my opinion, it's very slow paced, and if that's your thing, and you're wanting to go and just relax and meditate and just be in nature and stuff, it's perfect for a person that wants to unwind and just have like a relaxed lifestyle. It's excellent for that. But overall, with us being a family and, the kids wanting to go out and do stuff and have like, different arcades and all kinds of stuff like they were used to doing in Atlanta, and being able to go like to the movies and go to golf carts and all of this kind of stuff, not golf carts, but what do they call
Mini
those
golf.
things? Mini golf and stuff like that. It just was a little lacking as far as that's concerned. So it was a little bit on the boring side because
Again, now this is away from the city.
yes,
Remember that.
again, this is in the countryside. So this is an hour outside of the city. Now, in the city of Panama City, there's a lot to do. There's a lot of festivals, there's bars, there's lounges, there's all of that. But in the countryside, it's more reserved for retired
Yeah.
expats. That's what the majority of the expats are in Panama. Most of them are going to be 55 and up. There are people that are older, individuals that have retired and they're living
Pensionados.
there, that's what they call them, pensionados. And, they're just there living out their senior years there. So it really wasn't a fit for us in terms of entertainment and sort of being entertaining at that particular time for us as a family. So I remember in our condo, there was a lot of activities on an activity board when we first moved in. And in the elevator, they would always post all kinds of activities and a schedule of activities to do. So we were really excited about that. And then we started checking them out, and they were like bingo and shuffleboard and, knitting and stuff like that. And so my kids used to go on the pool all the time. And a lot of times the older people would be having their meetings or whatever activities they were doing. And so the boys wouldn't necessarily feel comfortable going and hang out at the pool when there's a whole bunch of older people in the pool as well, and so it just was a little bit like, well, this is not necessarily family friendly for what we're looking for. And I remember the kids were like, okay, so y'all like really just moved us into a nursing home. Like, seriously, this is the best you could
That's
choose.
insane,
Like,
yeah.
our oldest son was like, so you really moved us into a nursing home, like a retirement home. And we were like, it's pretty though. So anyways, that was a con. The next one is homeschool community. There's not a huge homeschool community in Coronado area. Now, I don't know if that's changed, obviously, since we were there, but at the time, there wasn't a homeschool community, and we weren't homeschooling our kids at the time. They were enrolled in private schools. So we really weren't checking for a homeschool community, but I don't remember there being an overwhelming number of options as far as that's concerned. So that's something to keep in mind if you are intending on homeschooling your children. There's not necessarily a huge community of things to do with them. The next one is going to be that Panamanians tend to be a little distant and take their time to sort of open up. So especially if you don't speak the language. If you don't speak the language, they're a little more reluctant, and they don't open up as much, and they're
Not
not
very engaging.
engaging. So they sort of, I mean, they're not like rude or anything like that. They just they're just like, I don't know you, you don't know me, and that's just how it is. So most of the people that we connected to were definitely people that were there from other countries, people that were from either Canada or, Dominican Republic, all different types of people. And those are the people that we connected with. The local Panamanians, not so much. The next,
But you know what? Hold on. That's true out in the country. But when we were in Panama City, and we went to the museum, we went to the restaurant, like they were super.
Right. That's
totally
what we said
different.
before, that living in Coronado as opposed to living in Panama City is apples and oranges. We're only giving you our perspective about Coronado.
Not Panama City, not the entire country.
Right, exactly, because there's so many other areas of Panama, like San Blas is over on the coast, and that's where a lot of the Afro-Panamanians live. And we didn't have a chance to get over to that side, but there's a lot of different places throughout Panama, so we're not speaking like it's a monolith, like we're just giving our experience.
In Coronado.
So the next one that was a con is, as far as their permanent citizenship is a bit expensive. And so that was one of the things, anytime that we go to a country, we're always looking at what are the visa requirements in this country, what is the citizen requirements, how much does it cost to become a citizen, what kind of benefits do you have and receive becoming a citizen here. So in our opinion, based on all of the other countries that we've traveled to and compared it to, it is on the expensive side.
Yeah, $10,000 they want, per person, like per individual, for your citizenship. And that's not just like you have to have that in your bank. No, that's what it costs you to actually obtain your
just for the processing. So
that's that.
So a lot of the expats that we found that moved from the States and moved over to Panama were basically retirees, and they were just going over there to purchase houses and sort of live there for the rest of their lives. So it's a benefit for them, but that wasn't necessarily a fit for us. The next one is going to be, and this is not to be rude, but the resorts was a little overrated. Like this is a comment for me. Maybe not, he may not feel the same way, but in my opinion, the resorts section, there's really some beautiful resorts that are there in Panama, and they, have wonderful amenities and, definitely first class 5-star places, but they were a bit overrated because they were sort of empty. They were very empty.
Yeah, like we would go and literally be the only people there.
Right. So we were like, how are we gonna catch a vibe?
That's all romantic when you see it in a picture, on the magazine. It's like, oh, that's nice, right? But when you're experiencing it,
and you're the only person there, like, well, this is sort of like, I mean, I guess that it was cool to have like that exclusivity, but it just wasn't.
After a while, it's like you want to be around people enjoying it. But the thing is, like, the price point of those amenities was so far away from what the Panamanian general populace could afford that they didn't engage. So like you'll see more every weekend the Panamanians will come from the city and go hang out on the beach, right? So it was like a party every weekend. So you're more apt to engage with the Panamanians, just hanging out at the beach, just any random public beach. They there drinking a beer, you know what I mean? And it's just a good time, like fireworks every weekend, like, you know what I mean? And so, but when you go to these resorts, it's bone dry, like it was like no one there. So
the resorts were pretty much just for like tourists that were coming from overseas. So most of the resorts were tourists that were coming from Canada or coming from the UK or coming from some other place in Europe. And so it just wasn't, it was sort of overrated in terms of expensive for what you sort of got. It just wasn't a hit for us. But we did find after like I would say maybe 2 or 3 months and just sort of exploring, getting more comfortable and going out and finding places, we did find some local beach clubs, and they were just like, sort of like your mom and pop kind of beach clubs, and those were a vibe.
They were sick.
Yeah, those were definitely a vibe. We had great times hanging out at the local beach clubs. So again, because that was our first time living overseas, it took us a little time to sort of get acclimated to feel comfortable living abroad. It gave us, living abroad. It gave us a little time just to be comfortable feeling like, okay, we can go without speaking fluent Spanish and go to these beach clubs and feel comfortable. So it was definitely worth it. I would definitely encourage you guys to do that. If you happen to be in the area, you'll definitely enjoy it. So the next one is definitely going to be a con for me, which was Black hair care options. Like, tragic. There was no options. And of course, obviously in that particular area that we were living in Coronado, most of the people certainly are not of African descent. So they just didn't have options in terms of being able to get my hair done. And that was really like, what? Like, I don't get it. But that was a challenge. So, I definitely wasn't prepared in terms of bringing the necessary hair care products and tools and stuff like that I really should have brought with me. So that was a bit of annoyance, but it's not, it's not something that's
not major, right?
Yeah, it's not something that's terrible. You just have to be prepared for it. So that was definitely a con for me. And one experience that I will tell you is that I did ask around, like I was hunting to find somebody. Like, it gotta be a Dominican hair care salon. I mean, hair salon. Like, it has to be like an African African braider. Like, I couldn't understand nobody that I could find. And so they did refer me to a lady, and they were like, she's Dominican. She can definitely blow your hair out, and she'll do a great job, la, la, la. So I went to her salon. I explained to her, let her see my hair. Like, look, like, do you know how to work with this type of hair? And she's like, oh, yes, I got it. No problem. So I did go to her salon. She, had a really, really nice salon, very upscale, modern, very clean. And she did wash my hair, condition it, do a blowout on it. It took her probably like 6 hours to blow my hair out. And it was the longest like ever. Like, I was just like, what did I get myself? What did I get myself? And the thing is, okay, the thing is,
she was so mad, bro.
Okay, so I was just so disappointed. But the blow dryer that she used, right? So the blow dryer had to be like from the 90s. Like, it was very much like an older model blow dryer, which is cool. Like, it works for her. Obviously, she's had it for a long time. Works without like a charm. No, I didn't have any issues with it. But it blew out. Like, it was sparking. So, because I think that she probably never had nobody that had kinky hair that needed to be blow dried. It wouldn't dry. You know how that is. And the blow dryer blew out, whatever. She had to get another blow dryer. Long story short, she ended up blowing my hair out, straightening it out. And when I left the salon, by the time that I drove from her salon back to my house, which was only like less than 15 minutes, like literally, my hair was back in an afro, like within 15 minutes. So that was like, I was heated about that. I actually have some pictures of that. I'll probably post it. It was just like, wow. So that's something to be concerned, to be prepared.
I couldn't laugh, but
yeah, my hair was.
Yeah. She was so angry. She spent so much money. It was wonderful.
Yeah. So the last con that we have. Okay, let's see here. So the last con that we had. You want to do this one?
Yeah.
So the last con that we had was about the food. So the food was definitely
different. It was different.
It was just different.
Yeah, it was.
It just wasn't
what I expected.
What we expected, and it was a little bit on the bland side for us.
Yeah, I grew up with a lot of Puerto Ricans and Dominicans and everything, and so, and even Cubans, and so I was very used to like the Caribbean
like spiciness and
of Latino food. Of Latin food, and so I just kind of expected that, right? And I'm like, yeah, this is about to be great. Like, y'all about to see what it is, telling my kids and everything, and so, but that's not how it is there.
Yeah,
it's not anything like Puerto Rican or Dominican or Cuban food at all.
Right.
It's really its own thing, and for me. It was not really delicious. I'm not trying to knock nobody or nothing. Like, I mean, there were things that were like that soup. They had a soup,
Oh,
That
the
was out of
sancocho.
control.
That was the best.
The
So,
food was out of control. But
God, I'll let you finish.
yeah, the for me, like it was everything else was not delicious. It wasn't delicious. Like the sausages was not delicious. The smoked meat thing, stick thingies,
I
those
like the
was
smoking.
yeah, they was all right. But like I mean, I neck bones like
Yeah, it
that's
just
like
wasn't
another.
our, it wasn't our
It's
style
not.
and
It
our
was
preference.
not my
Yeah,
jam.
it
Man.
wasn't
Like
our
yeah, it was
preference.
not
Yeah,
my jam. Like at all. Like,
yeah.
so like I prefer like Colombia's food like, over by a lot. You know
Mhm.
what I mean?
Now, one of the things that I loved about Panama, some of the Panamanian food, we had certain things that were our preference and that we loved, like the sancocho, which is a soup that they
That
make.
was delicious.
Beautiful
Yeah,
soup.
that
Love
was
that soup.
delicious.
They also had like this smoked meat that they used to smoke,
That
and
was
they
not
had these
delicious.
like little like biscuit things, and I
Those
personally
red
loved them.
things
Like I would
wasn't
drop my
delicious.
kids off to school, and then I would go and get some sauce, the meat, and the biscuits, and some coffee. Like that was my
They
breakfast.
coffee, no,
Yeah, they have great
they
coffee.
coffee is out of control. Like honestly, I prefer Panamanian coffee over Colombia.
Right. Yeah, the
It was
Panamanian has
so
Panama rather
smooth.
has beautiful
It
coffee.
was
So
so smooth. Don't need no cream. Don't need no sugar. It's just it was really really good.
so I asked him to rate the food in his opinion from 1 to 10, and he rated it as a 1. In my opinion, I would definitely rate the food at maybe a 4. The reason I say that is because they did have some really great seafood there. So we were able to buy some local lobsters and crab. Remember
Oh
the crab? Like the crab was like this big.
yeah, but
Like
they ain't
let
make
me
it for you,
let
so
me
that's
go
not
back.
that don't count.
Yeah, but it was like this, like
It was mad big. It was
huge.
big, like
I
really
think we
big.
have a picture of it on Instagram actually. If not, I'll put it on there. But it was huge. Like I've never seen a crab that big in my life. So I'm like, this is winning. I like
Yeah, that
this.
was
So
great. And it was
okay,
really yeah, it was really cheap too. That's another thing. Their seafood, the seafood down there was really well priced. How you doing, Top Notch? I'm gonna give you a shout out. Yeah, the seafood was very well priced, but I didn't even
right.
count that because they like we cooked that.
But still, I thought, I mean, that was still great. I mean,
Yeah,
we
okay. Oh,
for
see,
like maybe I want to say it was like maybe $12.
yeah, but you remember that beef?
It was, yeah, but it was an entire like the full crab, and it was huge. So it was like this has been in the ocean for a long time. I really enjoyed that. Now the meat, the steak, and the beef in Panama is extremely tough. Like
Bro,
so, it's like these cows
these
were just
they work.
living.
They
Yeah.
work. They're like those ain't just like cows. These cows is working. Like they got muscles. Like these cows is strong like
Yeah,
oxen.
yeah.
Like
So it
yeah,
was tough. So that was like, okay, that's different. So those are things
yeah,
that's as far as the food is concerned. He rated it as a 1. I rated it as a 4.
yeah,
But again, if you happen to go to Panama and you visit any other part of Panama, maybe the cuisine is different. The
yeah.
cuisine probably is much different in Panama City, probably very
They said
different in
San
San
Blas.
Blas.
They said that San Blas is different because it's more the Caribbean is,
Right. So they have more of
which
a
is what I
Caribbean.
was. I guess I don't know. In my mind, I had it tuned up for that Caribbean
Right.
sound.
And keep in mind that in Coronado and Syria where we live, most of the people, as I mentioned, that were there were, like Canadian or maybe older white Americans. So,
They had
maybe,
their own restaurants, and
yeah,
those was good. Those was
yeah. But the local Panamanians, I
good.
don't know, maybe in that area that we just didn't hit the spot in terms of the correct Panamanian food place to go to, but we weren't really too keen on the food. So the next section is going to be the pros, and we just want to do a recap on the pros and things that we did enjoy
Right,
while we were in Panama.
right. Those are they're out.
Right,
Not
right,
just all negative.
right.
A lot of good
Yes.
that we gain. I always said I put up a post the other like last week saying how pivotal Panama was in my own personal journey, and how I appreciate the people in the culture and what I was able to gain from that, for my life now and even for my sons. They both confirmed that today from their own experiences, how beneficial Panama was for them. But
Right.
we'll go into that. So,
Right, absolutely. So the first pro that we want to mention about Panama is, to nod to what you just said, was that it's really great for meditation and it's really great for decompression. It is a great stop in the case, or a great place in the case that you're looking to move or relocate from the States and you're looking for a place to sort of integrate into your expat experience. You want to
Yeah.
become familiar with how to sort of live this expat experience. It's a great place for that because there's a lot of English speakers and it's very relaxed. It's very, I mean, calm.
And it's
If
safe.
you want to unwind from the rat race,
Panama is safe as well.
it's very safe and it's just very tranquil. Like it's beautiful. The nature, the landscape of it is just phenomenal. If you want to unplug, that's definitely
good
high
place
on our list.
for spiritual healing and mental healing. We came at a time where we were in turmoil in our society, in reference to young Black boys being killed, and for me it was really exactly what I needed.
It was exactly
that pause, the slowdown. Time wasn't like super fast. It was major.
The
slow,
day seemed so long.
Yeah.
It just was so peaceful.
And then the views, going the nature, going out.
You're skipping. You're skipping.
I'm skipping.
Yeah, we're just talking about this.
That's what I'm talking about.
Okay, but I'm about to.
What is this? A different thing?
Go ahead.
Okay. Well, go ahead. Look.
I'm just saying you're skipping into more of the pros.
I didn't know.
That's all right. Go ahead.
Talking about really the meditation and decompression, but for me, the nature is a part of the meditation. So that was a good part of it. And I'm gonna go ahead and just stop because
I'm listening. Go ahead.
I got nothing else to say.
Okay.
Right.
So the next pro that we have is, in my opinion, now this is just my opinion. He doesn't agree with this because we already talked about this. But in my opinion, I feel like the shopping is a advantage. Now, let me tell you why I say the shopping is an advantage. It is the pro there, in my opinion.
For women.
For women. Let's specifically say this for women, and I would say for children too. The reason I say it's a pro is because you can get like really inexpensive clothes and stuff like that. In Panama, they have tons of malls. Like the malls are loaded and packed with tons and tons and tons of stores, and they have everything that you need. So therefore, if you were going to be going to Panama and you weren't wanting to take a lot of luggage, like if you just wanted to take a suitcase and a couple of things, but you were going to be going for maybe a 6-month visa or going for a couple of months and you didn't want to take a whole bunch of stuff, you could literally go to the mall, buy everything you need for that season and that trip for 6 months that you're going to be there, spend next to nothing for it, and you have everything you need, so you don't really need to bring a lot of stuff. However, the quality is not the best. So it's going to
where's it come from?
Hold on. It's going to be trendy, but it ain't going to last. You know what I mean?
Where's
so if you're only going just for the summer or just for the season and you don't want to bring a whole bunch of stuff and bring a lot of bags, you just want to grab like your little things you need while you're there, it could work for that. So that's a pro that I would definitely say.
A lot of the gear, most of it, almost all of it, comes from China, right? So like they have like these contracts. Remember Panama is this big major port. So they call them Chino stores. So, a lot of these clothes and sandals and like little doodad things, which, girls or women, I should say, are, they like that kind of stuff. It were really good for them. It's coming from China and you can get a lot of things for very, very low cost. However, with like the dude stuff, like for the guys, like it depends on whatever your style is. Like I can't wear tight clothes, like, right? So everything is tight. Like the pants is like mad, like major, like skinny jean, look like women clothes tight. And I'm like, I'm not gonna ever put that on ever. And so like whether the shirts, the shorts, pants, even the shoes was tight. Like even the shoes was tight. So I'm like, nah, I can't really get down with the gear here. So like that was a problem for me.
For women and for kids, women in terms of you're just going to get, your little sundresses and shorts and stuff like that, just for like beach stuff, it's very inexpensive, very plentiful. They have various sizes, everything that you need. And one thing I will mention is that I did do like shopping at a store that was very similar to like Victoria's Secret. I think it was called Scentsy, if I'm not mistaken. But that's sort of like their brand. It's very similar to Victoria's Secret, same quality, same style, and like maybe 70% less than what you would spend at Victoria's Secret. And those were good quality, not necessarily clothes, but the underclothes or whatever that you would get from Victoria's Secret and that type of thing was very good quality. So that's a pro. We just need to throw a pro in there. So let's see. The next one is like we already mentioned, is very relaxing. The expats are very friendly. They're in
They're like a
Panama.
family. Like the expats, there's like it's like a family. Like and they're like connected like all over the country. So like if you're part of that family there, then it's easy to be connected
Right,
with somebody in San Blas or
right.
somebody in Panama City or so that was definitely a pro because they really are like a family there.
Absolutely. And like you said, they definitely are very welcoming. So if in the case that you meet someone there and they're like, hey, I know someone that's over in the city, they can do this for you, they can do that for you. Very helpful.
Yeah.
I will say that the expats are very friendly in terms of being welcoming to you as as a family. Well, to us as a family, our kids were invited to a lot of different events. They went to a lot of different birthday parties. They went to bonfires. They had a great time. They definitely made a lot of friends, and people were very friendly in terms of just being helpful in any way that they could. So that's definitely a pro that I would suggest about Panama. The next one is going to be inexpensive housing. Which the apartment that we lived in, like I said, it was $1,300 for a modern ocean view apartment, but they also definitely had apartments in different parts of the country, and even in the countryside area that were a lot less expensive. So,
and it was also, very easy to and very affordable to build there. So if that's something that is of your interest in reference to real estate, building in Panama is like they love it. Like they eat it up. I mean, they'll clear the path for you.
Absolutely.
To make that happen, and the cost is just really, really low. They're very hard workers too. That's something that I can say. They work until it's done. Like I've actually observed them build up. And they were after it. It was amazing.
Yeah, we actually know someone that is a veteran that is a young Black woman. She's like less than 30, and she's a vet. She actually moved to Panama, and I've don't know her personally, but I follow her YouTube channel, and she purchased a home in Panama for about 40,000, brand new construction. So there's definitely options as far as that's concerned. So inexpensive housing. Also, as I mentioned, we lived in Coronado Interior, but there's another small little city that's a couple miles over from where we were living called Ponte Chame. And we had a really good friend that we met there named Yumilka, who was from Dominican Republic. She owned a restaurant, a Black woman as well, and she owned a restaurant there. She lived in Ponte Chame, and she had a 2-bedroom apartment that was also ocean view, facing the same water view that we did, but just further down in more of a local community. And I want to say that she was paying for her 2-bedroom maybe $500. So there's a big difference there. If you're looking to live more in the local community, then you can definitely find very nice places for less. The next one is going to be one of our pros was definitely whale watching. We went whale watching in Panama, and we we were invited by the lady that was our host that we were not host but landlord that we were renting from. She was doing a whale watching trip that apparently she does every year with her and her family. Her grandchildren come down from the States. She lives there full time, her and her husband, and they always go whale watching. And so she invited us to go because we had children, and it was really nice. It was very nice. They were very friendly. We went out on the boat for the day. We had lunch. It just was beautiful to be able to have that experience, and it was very nice. So we did have a chance to do whale watching there. So that was definitely a pro. The next one is that I feel like, and this is a pro for me, I feel like it was easy to navigate without having to be fluent in Spanish. So if you're a bit hesitant about, not being able to speak Spanish, then in Panama, I don't feel that that would necessarily be a total hang up. Like you won't just be out there. You can definitely
Especially in the
find a
city.
way.
Everybody in the city speaks English.
Absolutely. And we found quite a few people that, spoke English and were able to translate for us as well. And then the last one is going to be US, the currency. In Panama, they use US dollars. They don't use a different type of currency. They actually use US
They use
dollars.
both. They have a belt. Remember the Balboa?
Oh, was it
Yeah,
Balboa?
they have a Balboa.
Yeah, Balboa. That's like the change, right?
No, that's
Oh.
their currencies.
Oh, okay.
So they use USD and also their own currency.
Balboa. Yeah, that's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah,
So we pretty much were able to use our debit cards and use US cash. And so another question that people oftentimes ask us as well is when we moved, did we take cash with us? Do we encourage you having a lot of cash? First off, we don't ever encourage you to have a lot of cash on you. If you're taking cash with you when you're traveling, you want to put it up somewhere, and you definitely don't want to have it on your person when you're out and about. But when we left from the States, I want to say, if I'm not mistaken, that we did take, I believe it was like $1,500 in cash.
No, I had three.
3,000?
Yeah.
Okay. So we took about three.
But that's not a lot. That's not anything to be concerned about. Like you just put in your shoe,
Yeah,
or whatever. But
yeah, and you can certainly use your cards and stuff. You don't necessarily have to have cash,
right.
But because we knew that it was U.S. currency that they accepted there, so we were like, okay, we might as well have cash and then avoid any ATM fees and things like that. So that was our purpose in bringing cash with us. But you really don't have to have a lot of cash with you. The last con that I want to mention is excuse me. The last pro that I want to mention is the volcanic sands.
That's why you didn't.
The beaches in Panama are absolutely breathtaking. The sands are like charcoal black, and they shine like diamonds when the sun is out. Like it literally, if you're walking on the beach and you're looking down the coastline, it just shimmers like diamonds. It's just like the most. I had never seen anything like that, and it was really breathtaking. So I love that about Panama, the black sands that they have there, and also I love the auroras that they had. So the lights in the skies at night over the ocean and over the beach, you would have just like all of these different colors and hues and the lights and the skies, and the auroras was just really, really beautiful. So I thought that was just like something that was very memorable to note. I'm going to talk about highlights real quick to wrap that part up. The highlights that I experienced in Panama, we mentioned, was world watching. We also got massages in a tree house. So we found.
I was like, wow, this is a tree.
Yeah, inside a tree.
Like a house in a tree, literally. A house in a tree was crazy.
Yeah, so I started going to yoga when I was in Panama, and they recommended me to a massage therapist. And when I went to set an appointment, I set up the appointment with her. She gave me an address. I came to the location. I'm looking like, okay, this is a tree. What is going on? I don't understand what's going on. Unfortunately, she spoke. Unfortunately, she spoke English, so that wasn't a problem. And I'm like, am I in the right place? And nevertheless, it was a tree house, and they had a shower in there and everything. And it was just so dope. It was just really dope. It was really kitted out, like he said, in there, and it was very relaxing. So that was fun to have that experience. The next highlight that we had was the Beale Museum, or as they would say, Beale Museo, I think it's so.
I can't.
Okay. The Beale Museum, and that's basically a biology museum that they have in Panama City, and we really enjoyed it. The kids really enjoyed it. There was a lot of exhibits and stuff, and it's somewhere you can definitely go and spend the full day with your family. There's so much to do. There's restaurants and cafes, and you can spend a whole day there. Like, it's really something dope to do. So if you are traveling in Panama with children, I definitely suggest that you go to the Beale Motel or Beale Museum and go during the day. Go early enough to really take advantage and enjoy the day there. And that's the last highlight that I have.
Yeah. The sunsets
Hmm.
The sunsets, crazy, man. They were like so many colors, like
Yeah.
so many. It was so vibrant, so bright, and it lasted so long because
Right.
like the sun setting in the west. So you're like we were on the west coast, so like it'll be setting like for hours. You'll be just seeing like
Just
all of
watching
these
it. All the
changes.
different hues, like it
Yeah,
was weird. Like
wow.
I was blown away. Like
Yeah.
I'm originally from upstate New York, you know what I mean? And we have some beautiful sunsets, but they're not necessarily sunsets that I would write home about. But I had never seen anything like that. Like the sunsets to have so many different colors, like magenta and just like hues of light, violet and just orange, and it just was like, wow, this is crazy. So that was definitely something that I thoroughly enjoyed in Panama. So we've already went over the budget for this video. We went over the pros and our cons. We also went over highlights. And lastly, what we want to cover is did you find it?
Yep.
We want to be able to touch on a question that was posed to us, a few questions that was posed in our Facebook community from one of our members about the a couple of experience or things in terms of our expat experience. This is not necessarily Panama specific, but we wanted to make sure that we had a chance to touch on this for David. We appreciate giving us this feedback and giving us the questions so that we can provide a little bit more
Big
information.
shout out David Bassar.
Yeah, definitely want to shout out David Bassar. So we're going to go ahead and just touch base on his question and make sure that that we answer those. And we just want to shout out David, and shout out Zelfa as well. Thanks for watching, guys. So his first question is, let's see here. Could you please discuss the emotional side of selling or giving up your personal items before the move?
So
Which we did talk about
you
that.
want to do this collectively? You want
Well, you can go first, and then I'll go after.
okay. Yeah. So David Bassar asks, could you discuss the emotional side of selling or giving your personal items up before the move? At the beginning of this live, I was kind of going through the process that we went through to actually step out. It wasn't just a knee-jerk type response. It was planned out. It was methodical. Like I said, we're very much so involved in the American economy, very much so vested there, and going through the process of downsizing from a 10,000 square foot house to a 5,000 square foot house, from a 5,000 square foot house, then down to a 2 bedroom apartment. There was time in between there, and so there was also the opportunity to come to terms with letting go of things. Now, the truth of the matter is this. It's going to sound weird, but I'm going to be honest, I can only speak for myself. It felt good. If
Yep.
I didn't think it would,
Yep.
but it felt
Wonderful.
great. I'm like, oh man, like I was held hostage by all of this stuff. Like, and it's like, okay, it's there, and I don't really like it or whatever. Like, but I still gotta have it. I gotta go get more. But letting that go was, for me, emotionally, it was free. It was like I felt like I was sticking it to the man. I really did. Like, screw your system. Like really, I really felt like that. So for me, that was the emotional response.
Okay, he has to get the charger real quick, guys. So, as far as the emotional state for me, it was a little difficult. It was challenging for me to let go of certain things that I really, just gathered over the years, just different things that I was nostalgic about, memories. I still had my kids, baby shoes, I still had all of the things from when they were brought them home from the hospital, like all those different kinds of things. And so it was a bit of a challenge to sort of determine what things I was going to hold on to and what things I use, and all, even designer stuff and all kinds of stuff, and just gave it away. And it really just, for me, what I did was I sort of weighed and discussed, okay, do I feel like if I had to determine whether or not I was going to go on this journey and go on this adventure and go and open up myself to this new chapter in life. Is this worth me keeping and not experiencing that? And so that's sort of how I weighed it. Was like, if this was a determining factor, this item was a determining factor as to whether or not I was going to go. Am I going to take it? Yes or no? That's how I did that. So what I will say to not to what Omar said is giving away and sort of separating certain things and getting rid of it. And it adjusted us to a minimalist lifestyle. And so definitely at this time, we definitely over our travels experienced and developed the lifestyle of minimalism. And it's been so freeing. It's been so mentally, emotionally, physically, financially, every aspect of our lives is much more enriched due to minimalism.
Honestly, man, I'm gonna be honest. Like, I get agitated when there's just like stuff. I'm like,
Yeah.
man, what is all this stuff?
Like
Can we get rid of it?
yeah, we're definitely into like,
I don't know. It just
keeping it simple.
it changed. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's something we shed. When we shed things, we shed layers, if that makes sense. Okay. So the next one.
The next question that David had was, what documents must you have for your child that's of school age and for visa? I'll go ahead and address that real quick. What we first thing we did was, we got all of our kids' school records just to have them. Like we just from their schools that they were in, we got all of those shop records, everything. We pulled all of that just to have a copy of that for ourselves. Now, in reference to each country or any country that you may go to, they have different requirements. Panama required if you get an apostille, which is like having all of those documents, which is school records, shop records, copies of the passports and the visa, translated all into Spanish and signed off on by the what do they call it?
It was like the education minister or something
at
like
the
that.
embassy in the United States, and that's how you get the apostille. Right. And so we didn't realize that till we were there. Right. And so that was they didn't tell us, because that happens, and then you just need to figure it out. But we were able to get that taken care of. But have your personal records for yourself, and just bring copies of those for you.
So the items that I mentioned, or that he mentioned as well, is definitely you want to have your birth certificate, have your children's birth certificates, their social security cards. You want to have their passports. Obviously, you want to have their immunization records and their school records. Now, one thing I will say is that when you're going a lot of times to your children's school and you're asking them to give you your child's records, you need to have an official transcript. When I was going to get my kids, they kept trying to give me an unofficial transcript, and they couldn't understand why I would be needing my kids' records when they were just they got really strange about it, about wanting to release that information to me, because typically they don't release that information to parents. If you're going to be transferring your children to another school, usually you're transferring them within the 50 states. So they will transfer those records over to the new school. And so they didn't want to necessarily release it. So just make sure you have those items.
Next question. What are some simple online monetary opportunities that is easy to do or learn? I would be a big champion for doing customer service and or sales online. You'll just be able to find jobs that way. If you have a degree, you definitely want to look at teaching English as a second language through programs like TEFL, TEFL, or TESL, TESL. They provide you with opportunities to earn an income from abroad, or actually anywhere. So you can go on many platforms, whether it's Indeed, and just kind of look at work from home opportunities, and you'll be able to find whatever your skill set may be able to provide you opportunities for there.
Mhm.
Next,
Let me add to that part.
okay, go ahead.
So, as far as online opportunities, where he mentioned teaching English as a second language, one of the schools that I do know of that hires a lot of people that are interested in being English teachers in other countries is VIP Kid. Now, I don't know if that's still the leading one, but I do know tons of people that have lived in all different countries around the world and they teach online to children. So that's something to look
Mhm.
into. The other thing on top of what he mentioned in terms of going on Indeed rather, and finding out online jobs is, to take a skill of yours and find a way to make it pay. So in my opinion, if you're looking to do something online, if there's any type of specialized skill that you have, you can offer that as an outsourced position, and you can basically hire, I'm not hire, but you can put your services out there to basically do it on contract or as gig work for someone to provide those skills. So say for instance that you're really good in a certain subject. So let's say science, chemistry, math. If those are your specialties, if you are like a proofreader or a ghostwriter or something like that, those are things you can offer online to make extra money.
And lastly, should your budget be a third of the monthly income for housing? Let me just touch on this. I'm going to say this. Your budget, um, how you handle your budget. I'll never tell a person, how to run their house. Like, some people have different rules. Like my money is my money, her money is her money. Like, and
Yeah,
other
that's
people
going to be different for
other
everyone.
people have like, hey, we're together, it's our money. So like I can't really speak to that, right? As far as what your budget should be or how you should budget. But one thing I can definitely say is that you want to be able to afford the place
Mhm.
relatively easily.
Right.
You
That's
don't
the
want
purpose.
to move to another place and have a struggle. That's just not, that's not cool. Like,
Hmm.
like it's already hard enough here, right?
Hmm.
So, don't put yourself in a bad position to where you can't afford to be comfortable.
Right.
Don't do that. Don't do that. So,
What can I answer that?
sure.
So what I did want to mention as far as that's concerned is what you want to do, in my opinion, is to go ahead and look at realistically what your max budget is. What is it that is going to be the amount of money that you want to spend total, hard stop. This
Hmm.
is how much I want to spend per month, and then you work your lifestyle around that.
Right.
So if that means that you only go out, a couple times a week, or you only go out on the weekends, or whatever it is, then you determine what that
Right.
is, and that's not the same for everyone. Ultimately, in most places, you can always find what's going to make you comfortable. It's just about doing a little digging and doing your research. Now, you did skip one little section right here.
Sure.
He said, how did you guys deal with the boredom or depression in a new country?
Good. Yeah. Let's touch that. Well, I didn't have that. When again the boredom part, like as far as Panama goes, was later down the line. Like it wasn't like immediate, right? I was like, okay, well, what do we do now? After we've
We
been
got
here
everything, yeah.
for a few months, but um, the first 3 months is just like this romantic phase, right?
Right, it's the honeymoon phase.
Honeymoon phase, right? So you're like, oh wow, everything's great. So for me, I didn't really have boredom because, like I said, the purposes of Panama for me was to heal. When we went anywhere else, whether it was Colombia, Portugal, or Spain, like I had a ball. Like I was
Yeah.
never bored. So, and I was never depressed. Like I
Mhm.
was actually the opposite happened. I
Right.
was depressed in the States. So, after 3 or 4 months in Panama, that depression start lifting. All of that burden, that weight, that frustration, that anger, that righteous indignation, all of those things started lifting from me being abroad. So it's, to answer your question, for me personally, I was never depressed or bored. um
Mhm.
you
Let me
know
add to that.
yeah, go ahead.
So what I will say is that the way that when we moved to Panama, and I won't just speak about Panama, I'll speak about in general. I found not necessarily that I was depressed, but I did find that I did long for certain creature comforts, just things that I was used to, and it took me a while to sort of acclimate and be able to be okay with that. Like things like being able to go to get my nails done every 2 weeks, go to get my hair done. Like those are things that I like and have been doing for years and years and years and years. And so, those are things that are sort of like self-care things that sort of relieve stress. And I wasn't able to always find that. So I just adjusted, and I just acclimated to find new things that made me happy, like yoga and things like that. Also, what I would tell you as well, that's a tip that we heard from one of the other people in the group, is that when you travel, if you change your Facebook location, which I believe this was Kenna Williams mentioned this in an interview as well, which I thought was really insightful. So shout out to Kenna. She suggested when you move to another country that you change your Facebook location status to the country that you're in. And when you're in that country, it will give you the updated local events and notifications of what's going on around you. So oftentimes you will find that there are different things that may be interesting to you, different hobbies that you may have never thought of before to take up that will help with that depression and boredom to sort of get you out there.
Last question you asked was, have you noticed any SUV vehicles with Uber for us big and tall expats in Latin America? That's Brazil, Colombia, Dominican Republic, etc. Yeah, actually, you're going to pay more for it. you're going to pay more for it with the Uber, but really with the taxis or with the cabs that we found, generally they're just small. Some of them have vans. Like there's some vans.
Yeah, like when we were in
Mexico. Yeah, Mexico had vans, right? So, but generally, like the taxis are gonna just be a big fan, right? So, but they'll let you sit in the front seat. They'll you tell them, hey, I'm tall. They'll let you sit in the front seat so you can let the chair back. But as far as Uber goes, you can order the big ones, right? But generally, what you're gonna see is more of the smaller vehicles, more fuel efficient vehicles. And so, but they are available. So the one thing I can say is like finding clothes. Like if you're a big and tall person, like I'm not a, overly big person. I'm like 6 foot even, right? But it was like major difficult to find pants. Like
in what country you mentioned?
In Panama, in Colombia, in Mexico. I found some in Spain, but then it was tight. So
that's the European style.
That's the style a little bit. So that's something that you want to kind of keep in mind is keeping in mind that your clothes are going to be something that you want to bring because not a lot of places have access to big and tall clothing. Right. So yeah.
Right. So lastly, I just thought of something, but the kids walked by and sort of lost my train of thought. But nevertheless, those are the things that we wanted to include in our Panama recap video. We really appreciate you guys tuning in, and we hope that we were able to answer your questions efficiently. What I did want to say is when you are in a position where you're trying to discover where you want to go, you'll oftentimes find, and this is something I think is very interesting, when you happen to go and you meet other people and you meet other expats or other locals and stuff, people are always like, how long are you staying? How long are you staying? They want to know, like, how long are you going to be here? And it's okay. It's okay if you don't know, it's okay if you're just passing by. It's okay if you're just scouting it out. It's okay if you're not, just because you showed up in this country and you love it and it's beautiful and you're not just deciding to put down roots and build a house from the ground up there. Sometimes it takes you a process to find your lane, and it takes you a process to find what's going to fit for you. And I just think it's all about the adventure and finding out what's going to sit well with your soul, so to speak.
I mean, I think, like even like our first lap out, right? I call it first lap, right? That's what we're doing. We're looking to say, hey, what's out here? What's out here and where do I want to be? Like we weren't going to make some sort of a permanent decision after, for being in a place for a few months now. What we did find, I don't know why this keeps happening, but we find ourselves constantly going back to Mexico. So it's kind of seeming like a second home. Mexico's feeling like a second home. Yeah. Even though it may not be ultimately where we end up, that's just what's happening. It's just what is naturally
It feels
happen.
as familiar to us as Atlanta.
Yeah,
It feels as familiar to us as Western New York. Like
yeah,
that's how Mexico feels to us compared to other places that
right.
we've been to. So, with that being said, I did have one little thing that I was wanting to mention, but I can't think of it right now. I lost my train
Could
of
you add
thought.
it in like a
I'll
comment or
definitely, yeah, I can
something?
definitely add it as a comment if it comes up. But I do believe that we cover everything, at least on my notes we did. So once again, we just wanted to give this recap video and let you know again that we were a family of four. Those are our perspectives, and that's the experience that we had. We hope that you guys found it helpful and found it useful. We will be coming back to you with recaps of our other countries that we visited and giving more information on that. So if you have any questions that you want us to cover in that video, then you can go ahead and leave those in the comments. The next country that we're going to be covering is going to be Colombia.
Colombia.
Yes, Colombia. And we have some
Yeah.
great stories to tell
Very
about
good people.
Colombia, and our experience there. That actually is our children's favorite country out of all the places that we visited. And you'll be able to understand why once we have a chance to recap that video. So once
Right.
again, thanks for tuning in to the Blacugees.
Peace.
Bye.